3-4 years from now, when he's an unrestricted free agent, I can't promise you anything. Maybe he'll be playing for the Devils with Nikita Gusev. But the reality is that he's going to probably have to start off here. I think it's a good sign that he's learning English. I think it's a good sign that every single wild tweet and wild Instagram post that he likes. I mean, I know that we can't make anything of that, but he's obviously paying attention to what's going on here. I could tell you that I don't know if he reads my articles, but when I tweet about him or when I where he's mentioned, or if there's something cool with the Wild, all of a sudden I get a thing on my phone. Kirill Kaprizov liked this tweet. I mean, so I think that's a good sign. And so I think he's coming. I mean, and also I've met Billy Guerin. I think he's pretty persuasive. I have a feeling he's going to go there and try to persuade this guy. Just like Paul Fenton tried. Paul Fenton couldn't get him to come over here and break his contract. Chuck Fletcher, that thing went awry. I think Chuck regrets some of the things, the way that was handled, that got him to sign that 2-year extension. I think he trusted that everything was being given to this guy and not lost in translation with his old agent. And his old agent just apparently didn't have the influence that I think that the Wild thought that maybe he had. I mean, that was just a weird situation. I mean, his old agent's a great agent. So it just, things just went, you're dealing with Russia. This isn't, I hate to say it like this, but you're not dealing with Finland, you're not dealing with Sweden, you're not dealing with Germany, Italy, Switzerland, whatever, Norway. I mean, Russia is just a different thing there. There's pressures there that none of us can relate to. And he was under immense pressure to sign that 2-year extension. We saw in the World Championships before he signed that contract, they humiliated him. They put him on the team and they didn't play one of the best Russians at shift in that tournament because they were essentially holding him hostage. And so I think that we all got to appreciate that that this was just something that unfortunately the Wild didn't have control of, and there's a reason for it. It's just a different world over there. So.
I think just a follow-up question. Lou also indicated in agreement with you that the Wild is center challenge this year.
Big time.
What do you think Billy can do? Does he have some flexibility? Does he have options?
I hate to say one of his options might be trading Zucker, but no, I'm not going to start it again. But the only options right now, especially with Patterson hurt, so you're not trading any D. His only options would be they do have a lot of wingers, and remember next year, if you really want Kaprizov on this team, they're going to have to create a hole for Kaprizov. Though, so I do think if you're going to trade acquire a center, you're going to have to probably trade one of your good wingers. Now, I don't think he wants to trade Zucker, but Fiala, Donato, could it even be Cunnin or Greenway? I don't know, but at some point you're going to probably have to make a move to get a center. I mean, this team needs centers. I'm telling you. Like, I don't want to just pull the plug on all the optimism I've told you about this team, but it is not sustainable to play an NHL season with this lack of center depth. It's just not. So, I mean, second line center, there were 2 days before the season, and all of a sudden Mikko Koivu just shows up there where all camp long he's been basically playing the third or fourth line. I mean, Donato, Cunnin, and like fans on Twitter are trashing Boudreau. His job is to win, and Cunnin and Donato did not look right there. I mean, Cunnin, in both his preseason games that he played in Dallas and Minnesota, did not play well between Zuccarello and Parise. And Donato also just looked a little mixed up. And so he's trying to figure this out. I like the way the lines look right now. I think Donato, Cunnin, and Greenway could be a great line. I feel bad for Eriksson Ek, but Eriksson Ek, Foligno, and Hartman could be a great line. So what is going to be, what Boudreau's hope is right now is that if the Wild can in every single game play tight games or get early leads, then he can even out the ice times where fans aren't sitting there and saying, Mikko's the second line center and Eriksson Ek's getting 10 minutes a game. His hope is that every single forward on this team, even strength-wise, gets the same ice time. But a lot of that's on the game. If you're in Nashville or Colorado and you're down 2-0, 3-0, you're forced to chase right away, I can promise you the ice times won't be even at the end of the night. That's just the reality.
Good stuff. Let's do some Twitter questions. Do want to thank Bite Squad. We have a deal. Use promo code TALKNORTH to get delivery fee waived on your first order. They deliver morning, noon, night, late night snacks, home, office, wherever you like. And you can also sign up for a deal. Member deal, $5.99 a month, gets you free delivery for a month. within a 4-mile radius. Obviously, if you live near some good restaurants, it's a good deal. They keep adding good restaurants. So check them out, bitesquad.com, Bite Squad, the app. Did you have something else you want to get to, or should we go to Twitter?
No, I was just admiring your chicken scratch.
Yeah, it's the only kind of scratch I got. From Tony Leonard, Jeff Marek recently told a story on his podcast about a past Minnesota Wild player who couldn't develop large calf muscles, so he got calf implants. Any good story to tell there?
You know, I saw that tweet, and I meant to on the way here call Jeff Marek, and I'm texting right now to see if he'll divulge that. I have not heard that story. So
that would be weird.
Yeah. Here, I'm texting right now.
All right. Well, if you get an answer, let me know. From Nate Olson, Mike, you've said the Wild haven't been able to draft and develop their own depth fourth liners. Is Eriksson Ek that guy? Also, any line combinations you'd be interested to see that Boudreau hasn't tried?
I mean, the only one I'm a little surprised he hasn't tried is at Greenway up front at center. But I think that they just feel like they don't want to mess with where his position is, and they feel like he's just better on the wing. Center was an awkward position, I think, even for him in college. To just all of a sudden change to. In terms of, you're right, I have long said, why are they always signing the Eric Nyströms and the Darryl Powers and the Brad Stalbitzes? This is where you should put the Jerry Mayhews and people like that. That's more who I'm talking about, developing and putting them there rather than going and spending a bunch of money. But not so much Eriksson Ek. Like, you should not draft a guy in the first-round pick and think that you're developing him into a fourth liner. So right. I feel for this guy. He comes into camp ready to play every single year in totally perfect shape, and then here we are again because they're aged up front. And this is why, again, the Rask trade made little sense because you were just theoretically, if Rask was a normally good hockey player, when you acquired him, you knew you were putting him ahead of Eriksson Ek. When you re-signed Stahl, you knew you were shielding Eriksson Ek back. But that's the reality. I mean, Paul Fenton did not admire most every single player on this team. He did not like Granlund. He didn't like Coyle. He didn't like Niederreiter. He didn't like Zucker. He was always asking, what do you guys see in these guys? Ek was the same thing. He was trying to give away him at the beginning of last year. So I think that in his mind, when he was getting Rask, re-signing Stahl, it didn't matter to him that he was blocking out guys like Ek.
Interesting. From BJ Bonin, how are the left shot right wing doing, especially if, in regards to keeping right shot Cunnin at center?
What's that?
How do the left shot right wingers, how are they looking?
Left shot right wingers, I mean, Zuccarello looks fine. Cunnin's back at center. I mean, Greenway he's looked good since he's moved to right wing, and Fiala, in the little that I've seen him, he looks fine. But again, fit wise, where I'm more concerned is the power play. They just everything's still pretty convoluted up there. So,
from Carl C, did you get an answer yet?
No, I forgot. I left the text and now it disappeared. So now I got to rewrite the text. From
Carl C, what does a potential GM do to impress an owner? Does he do PowerPoints? Does he talk about future moves? Does he express confidence? I mean, how do you make an impression?
It's a good question. I mean, I could tell you that when Brian Lawton went for the job, what I hear is that he came in with a really impressive display and research and everything to show them, from cap to potential trades to projections to everything. I don't know how everybody does it. I know Billy impressed them. I think Ron Hextall came in and impressed at the beginning as well. So everybody's different. So if you're talking about the interview process,
I think so.
That would be that. So.
From our friend Bill, I see Sealer is still in Boudreau's doghouse. He saw limited games in the preseason. How is he expected to work his way out of the doghouse?
Sealer?
Yes.
Hang on. Sending Merrick the text. Hopefully he responds.
I always think the most entertaining thing you do on a podcast
like
is
that
text.
person that asked Tony Leonard, if Merrick didn't say who it was on his podcast, my guess is it's not something he's allowed to divulge.
Probably not.
I will say this. I know who it is. It just dawned on me. because I know somebody that Merrick is really tight with that played for the Wild, and I could see absolutely that this guy had no calves. So I absolutely know who it is, and if he's not willing to divulge it, I'm not going to because I'm just guessing, but I absolutely know who it is.
You don't have to give us his name, just give us his number.
I can't. If he allows me to, I know who, because Merrick works out with a Wild player every summer, and so it's got to be that guy. And that guy, I could tell you right now, is the skinniest big man that I've seen on the Wild, so I could see where he would be the guy that needed to get calf implants. Next.
Nobody
what was your
needs
question?
calf implants. Let's see.
I'll give him half
Sealer.
of mine. Oh, Sealer. I think I do think that, look, last year it was easy to just blame Fenton because of Boteto, right? Fenton's not around anymore to just kick and say he's the reason why Sealer's not playing. So this is obviously a Boudreau thing. I think that Boudreau feels that he hasn't improved this year. I don't think he's liked his camp. I could tell you that Bruce hasn't liked the composure that he's played with in some of these games. So I still like Sealer a lot. I still think that you're going to need Sealer. Like I could see Soucy playing opening night, and if the Wild lose, you're throwing Sealer in against the Landeskog's or the McKinnons of the world. But I think that with them playing Nashville, we just talked about, Forsberg and freaking Duchesne and Granlund and Johansson potentially on the number one power play. And then you have McKinnon and Makar and Landeskog and Rantanen and Gerard or Johnson on their number one power play in Colorado. And then you got Scheifele and Connor and Wheeler and them on number one power play. I think Boudreau is scared to death that this guy is going to take penalties. And so I'm sure that Boudreau has talked to Sealer about it, and what he's got to do is just play a more composed game Bruce said it today, he gets too wound up on the ice. So
thanks again to Tin Shed in Savage. It's right off 13. It's easy to get to, and another cool feature of going to tinshedmn.com is they have This Week in Sports, and they will tell you what they're going to have on their big screen TVs. I'm sure it's not all they're going to have, but you can find out which NFL games are playing, what college football games are playing. They obviously will have the Twins and the Vikings on this weekend, and they will have the Wild opener on Thursday night. So that's another good reason to stop by here. A couple more Twitter questions. If you have a final live question, pop up here before we get done. From JP, how long before Kadri is the most disliked player by Wild fans?
It could be by Saturday night. Remember when he ran Backstrom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. Yeah.
From Russo Slacks.
Oh.
How does it feel to do this is directed to me. Jim, how does it feel to do a podcast with the top podcasting talent in the hockey world? It feels awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. As Brett Favre would say,
you gave me my start.
Awesome. It's awesome.
Wait, that is a nice shirt.
It is. It's got that soft, nice, stretchy, soft material.
Yeah.
And it's a great shirt. I think it's a Peter Millar from Twill. From Elin Pooks L. Finally made it out. Oh, you're here. Did I pronounce your name right? Say it again? Alon, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. From Greg J. Listen to the last podcast. What did you mean by it's the hands that go when a hockey player gets up there and experience? I get the legs going. What do you mean by the hands?
It's the old Yari Curry rule. When you realize, when all of a sudden the hands slow down and you can't snap off a shot quick, that's what I mean. So
didn't we see that with Pominville a bit?
We saw it with Pominville. We've seen it, you just all of a sudden that puck gets by the net, and where years ago you would either deflect it or you'd turn around and shoot it in, it's like everything's just slower. And Yari Curry used to say that it wasn't his legs that went first. He knew that he was done when his hands went. And so that's what I meant. Hopefully that at least explains what I'm talking about. But here's a good example actually. Is Thomas Vanek. When he was playing here, he didn't have the greatest legs, but he did still have his hands, man. I mean, You saw some of those deflections that he made, or when he dipsy-doodled it around, who was the Winnipeg defenseman? Last name started with a P. Can't remember who it was. Was it Pullman? I think it was Pullman. When he dipsy-doodled around him for that crazy goal, that's a pretty sweet move, and so now all of a sudden, I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of him last year, but it seems like he's obviously without a job right now.
From Sam Randall of the Young Bucks, who has the most trade value?
Of the Young Bucks, I would think Greenway, Greenway and Cunnin, just because of their contract statuses. Where all of a sudden, and maybe Donato because at 1.9, but Fiala, at 3, it makes it a little more difficult. But probably.